Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spells Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today I'm in the home studio. We've got a friend over the Skypes, and we've had lots of different guests on the show. We've had podcasters and friends and family and things, and we've got a unique guest on here. We've got one of the great promoters, one of the great podcast consumers and promoters, and I just had to get him on, really. He expressed interest in being on, and I had to jump at the opportunity. So, live, it's Anthony, the Rural Farmboy, Welling. How you going, mate?
How do, Josh, and all our Star Wars Spelled Out friends? I'm going really good.
Great.
Glad to be on talking.
Well, it's just, you pop up so much in the Twitterverse, in the podcasts, in the Q&As of different podcasts and stuff like that. It just seems crazy that you're not on more shows really, but I mean that's kind of where I wanted to jump off. How do you get through so much stuff, and how do you find it? Do you just listen to anything and see what you like and pick the ones you go for?
Well, firstly, I'll tell you, I told Dallas Wood the same thing in that Twitterverse. It's because of Yuns that does Star Wars podcast. I think it's the 24th this month. I'll be 1 year on Twitter. For that, I want nothing to do with social media. Not a thing. I went and spent about 2 years in message boards on Star Wars Newsnet. They have those old school. You remember how like the Force.net had their message boards? Yeah, they do still exist in small pockets. And I made some friends there, but I've been listening to Star Wars pods since, that's very nice, 2011 I think I started, and bounced around a bunch of different shows, but not near what I listen to now. And it's pretty much wall to wall, I'm telling you. I get up in the morning, I go to that radio right there, and that old 5-year-old iPod, and I just pick somebody that downloaded from evening 4, and then they get in the car and go to work with me, and it is literally, when I'm telling you, it's back to back to back, all our friends' shows, one after another.
Yeah,
they're just so good.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of shows as well. Like, I might do one, but I work at a job where I'm lucky enough I can have my headphones in all day and sort of consume a lot of stuff too. So I'll burn through a lot of them as well. But the amount of stuff that you get through just blows my hair back. And then every now and then there'll even be ones I think Force Toast I might have found through you promoting them. I think there's been a couple that I found that you've actually, I'm going, that's one I haven't seen before. I don't know whether you just
that's what I'm there to do. That's how I see.
Yeah, it's the promotional side as well.
I just found like 3 or 4 more new shows that I got to go and probably open a spot in my playlist for. But no, I got to finish explaining myself. Is in the message boards. I'm telling you, all these folks posting in there, right? That I'm listening to this. Anybody else in here listen to Star Wars shows? And to a person, and they've probably got a small following. They're like maybe 700 folks from around the world on there a day. Not a one wanted to, and I'm just like, I want to talk with these folks, and I would go send in I'd send in emails, because I get a tendency, as folks sees me in that Twitterverse, I write the same way I speak. So that's my accent in writing, what it looks like. Because no damn person speaks perfect English, not nowhere around the world.
Hey, you're talking to an Australian, mate, so don't worry. We've got our own way of speaking.
So, yeah, after that, I started sending emails out, but I weren't really getting read. And I thought, well, how else can I do this? Because I listen to these folks every day, every week, and I get to know who they are as folks and fans just like me. How else can I do this? And I thought, well, I'll start doing voicemails. And first one's picked it up that I sent them out to was Hawes and Will. And I love them too so much. So much.
Good dudes.
And then I just started spreading them out here and there and here and there, and then start picking up some of the smaller shows, because as podcasters does, I mean, folks go sit down, maybe 1 or 2, 3 in a room, or on Skype like here and now, and sit and talk and record, and then they go throw it out there, and they wonder, especially newer folks, is somebody listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm listening, so what I figured I should be going doing, let them folks know you got listeners. And hey, if I like what you're doing, all yins over there, come on over here and give these folks a listen. And
Yeah.
I ain't nearly just the only doing it now. Michael Condon's doing it now too.
Yep.
And Johnny Orm over there in England, My Star Wars Life Debt. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's spreading out a bunch, and it's doing what I come in that Twitterverse wanting. I want all my friends together. And
Yeah, well, it's
I'll
great.
be damned if it ain't happening.
Oh, look, it's great for us, it's just a little podcast as well, and I was probably lucky from the jump when we started out, because I was friends with people like Steele Saunders, who gave it a little push when it started and things. So it would always help that we had a little bit of help from bigger podcasts and things. But when the Twitterverse, when the guys like you, the real hardcore guys who spread the word out, keep tweeting and stuff, I love it. When the phone blows up, I'm just like, oh, it must be Neil or Rural or one of those boys just pumping the podcasts up, and yeah, look, I love it. So. You must have, if you were on the message boards back in the day too, how far back does your fandom go? Were you old enough to see the originals in the cinema, or any of them, or were you a prequel guy, or where did it start off for you?
It starts off for me. I explained that to Neil. I went and hit him up, and he and I done a show on his Cloud Car Copilot. I even explained in long form to Johnny Grosso. He was all interested, so I sent him a thing. It started for me. I sit here talking at you right now. In October, I'm going to be a 53-year-old 12-year-old. So yeah, I was 10-year-old naive farm kid with a little 1-acre farm, 3 counties west of where I'm living now, and was in the fall, as I recall, before school started, about now. And neighbors was a good piece apart, and there was a couple teenage girls lived across the way, and got to be friends with my parents and come over that fall after it had already blowed up for a few months and was just running rampant everywhere. And they asked my mom, could we take the boys and me and my younger brother over to the local cinema and show them this? And she said, yeah. So off and away we went. And as you'll find, you tend to get older. Memories get fuzzier and fuzzier. The part that stood out to me that I remember most, it just had me glued, it was stuck on me, was that when the Tantive was being boarded. Mm-hmm. Before Vader gets into the hallway, just with the stormtroopers and all the firefighting, and I couldn't remember what Darth Vader's name was for like the next 2 weeks going to school. Had to go bug everybody. Yeah, it started there for me, and
you
brought me along.
You were the perfect age, weren't you? 10-year-old boy on a farm, like talking about having a movie speaking to you.
Yeah, because that's all I had. That's all we had back then, is just plain imagination. I mean, $6 Million Man was on TV and stuff like that. But yeah, they're when folks go and say, especially folks my age, and Pete Fletcher on Around the Galaxy. Yeah, he's just a couple of years younger than me. It was really something, and I kept a hold of it the whole way through all them dark times, them 16 years of the dark times. I lived through all that and still brought it with me.
Did you jump onto books and comics and things like just any, like especially when the originals finished? Did you just latch onto anything you could, or did you just go back and watch the VHSs whenever you could?
Surely did. Well, for VHS, I can remember finding the story of Star Wars was on a record LP, and I got my hands on that. And then it come along in cassette tape version, and I got my hands on that, and all the different little storybooks. Even if it weren't meant for, I was 16, 17, going on graduating high school, and I was still going buying like Droid World, if you know that story, or Planet of the
I had that one.
Hoojibs.
I had that book. I had it, yeah.
I was going and getting, if there was a Star Wars story, I wanted to know what the hell that was, and I wanted it for me. And then, VHS has come along. I got my first job out of high school and went and bought our family our first VCR.
Yep.
Tripping on.
Yep.
Yeah, but went and bought that, and went ahead and I didn't go renting stuff. I went straight to, I don't remember what the department store was, but I found A New Hope and got that. And then when Empire and Return of the Jedi come out, went and got all them three until I wore them tapes out. Just watching over, freeze frame and rewind and slow rewind, fast, just all of it. Yeah, just soaking it up. Every kind of story there was.
Were you convinced that was it? Did you think that was sort of 3 movies and there'd be no more? Did you always sort of have the hope that, George Lucas has always hinted there might be more? Did you always sort of keep that hope that there might be more movies one day?
I did never put a thought to it. I just took it, and I'm really got to be a rare lot if I'm taking a hard look at myself. I take everything as just, and I love it all. I take it as a story told to me. That's why I don't go do speculation, because if you're going to ask me what I want to see out of Rise of Skywalker coming up, I'm just going to be like, somebody got a Star Wars story they want to tell me. Tell me that story.
That's a pretty good attitude.
It's what some of them what I call them loud few. You know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. What got themselves all in a bind is because just like us, they love it as much as we do. But it ain't ours. It ain't never been ours. Ain't never going to be ours.
No.
And the onlyest way it ever might come close to that is the folks that's getting to tell Star Wars stories now. They're fans, same as we are.
Yeah,
even the folks making behind, underneath JJ, Ryan, Gareth, Ron Howard, everybody under that, they're all fans the same as we are.
It's closer to the fans than it's ever been, really, when you look at it like that, isn't it? It's not just one man doing it. It's actually there's a conglomerate of fans now who and I think some people, like you said, who get annoyed and noisy at things because they feel an entitlement that it should be them, rather than these other people. But
what exactly what I call getting in your own way, because that's and they're not seeing it. Take a mile long step back and take a look at just what you're doing, because it's not how it works. It ain't never how it worked, and hope that's never how it's going to work. And if you have a story, if folks have a story they want to be told, I'd like to. Well, they exist here and now, and that's what we call fan films and fan fictions.
Yeah, that's right. Do you remember where you were when you heard episode 1 was coming? Do you?
That was when the special editions was coming out in 4. It started
97?
We was told in late 96 that they was getting made, because A New Hope special edition come out January 97, and then Empire was February, and Jedi was March. 97. I was a Civil War reenactor, still living over in my hometown county, and still holding on to that love of it, but being buried in American history stuff and that whole group of friends I had. Yeah, when I heard about that, that got me really, really excited. And by then, I was married, had my oldest daughter, and turned her into a fan. Even as a little kid. Yeah, I remember coming home from work. That was a Wednesday, as I recall it. I'm pretty sure I come home from work, rounded up the used-to-be missus and my girl Allison, and off the theater we went to go see what all that was. And I come out absolutely blown away. Absolutely. And then all the silliness that went on after about how folks see, even expectations back then is...
Oh, yeah. We just didn't have as much of an internet to complain about it.
No, it was just barely just starting up.
Yeah, I remember... Yeah, 97. Yeah. I just moved out of home, so I went to university in 97. So I grew up in a country town as well, probably not quite as remote as you were, but I moved to the big city, and the special editions had come out at the start of that year, and then and it rolled in. And my university course, we had.
Was that when you was over in England?
No, I moved to England when I was about mid 20s. So I moved to Melbourne at 18. And went to university here, and then so we had access to my course. Got me access to the internet all the time, which was pretty rare in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. So all those Star Wars sites started to pop up and that was even StarWars.com. So it was sort of the perfect thing of new Star Wars films coming, and then actually having this magic machine where you could get information about it from.
Yeah. Yep.
So we got through the prequels, and then Disney bought it out, and then we started all up again. It probably didn't go away as much. Did you you followed Clone Wars and everything through that gap between 3 and the Disney buyout? It never went away. It sounds like it never went away.
2008, when started with the Clone Wars movie, the film or story. I call them. They're all stories to me. I know folks call them films and movies. That come out. That near's the only that I didn't go see in theater, and that's on me.
No, I didn't.
And I didn't get deep. I didn't get deep into the Clone Wars stories till actually it's only been about 4 years ago when I went and rounded them up, because I got everything pretty much digital on one of my only 2 pieces of technology I got in my house is my laptop and this here iPod. Yeah, I got everything on an external hard drive over there. And yeah, I've done Clone Wars watches 4 or 5 times because they were really good. And then when got a hold of that, partial season 6 with some of the unfinished stuff. Yeah, I went and got a hold of that because
I Netflix ones. Yep.
Wanted to know what that is, and got them. So yeah, I was actually Clone Wars would be a tad bit newer for me, but I wanted to know what them stories were.
Yeah. So did the Disney buyout and the new trilogy, does that sort of take you by surprise as much as everyone else, or I was pretty resigned that was it. After episode 3 there'll be no more movies and things. So I think it was very shocking to me when they said they were going to do more and do a whole new trilogy.
Oh, surely was. I had a different job at that time. And I remember that's when I had that 5-year-old iPod and was kind of riding off the employer's Wi-Fi when that story on October 30th, 2012, busted up that George was sitting down and handing it off and away. And just like all the rest of us, head spinning. What all's this? And we're getting told 3 more stories and maybe other ones after. What's all this going to be?
Yeah. It's just like the absolute open possibilities that they could just make these things forever. There's be more of them. It was something else. I mean, did you sort of have a big lead up to Force Awakens? Did you get sort of like leading up to the screening? Did you? What was your? Do you remember what you were doing leading up to Force Awakens? Did you get friends and family around, or fly solo, or do you recall?
Well, I definitely recall that. Late 2014 was that Thanksgiving Day when we got the very first teaser. And I went and got a hold of that. It's been for, oh boy. See, I got my middle girl and my youngest girl's 12. And since me and their mom are on our own path, I get my girls every other weekend. So when that weekend come up that trailer, and we got over here, we got home, and I asked them if they went and saw it, and they said yeah, and they wanted to sit and watch it again. So we'd sit and do like everybody was taking it and slowing it down and looking at all these different parts of it and what's all this mean. And then when December come around, and that happened to be my weekend with them on opening weekend, and I didn't get to take them opening night, so we went to theater that Saturday morning after I picked them up Friday, and sat together, all 3 of us holding hands, watching it when that Lucasfilm logo come up, and just excited as all get out, and then talked the whole way home about it again, and then saw it again the next day.
How many times do you try to see them in the cinema? Does it all depend on schedules and things, or do you kind of go like I've got to make sure I see it at least 3 or 4 times? Or I mean, some people go crazy numbers, but
like Brian Young, he's like 20, 25 times. No, I'm pretty good for 2 times, 3 times at max.
Yeah, I'm about the same.
And then wait for maybe some not so legal means to go about getting hold of things till I can get a hold of the actual thing.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, for every next, then when, what was next up? Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah.
Yeah, got the girls. Went and seen that twice. Got the soundtrack, because both my girls are in high school band. They're flutists, and they're damn good
Oh,
ones.
nice.
I get live music every other weekend. And sometimes
very
they're
nice.
playing, they're diving into Star Wars stuff. They're diving into all kind of stuff. And yeah, they'd go hunt up the sheet music for things. Rogue One, fell in love with that soundtrack, and they went bananas with that and getting copies of my computer, putting them on their phones and taking it home with them. And same for Solo and same for Last Jedi. Yep. Loved it, loved it.
Same again for Rise of Skywalker then. Complete the trilogy.
They're fired up for it. Yep. And when that time comes. Go ahead.
Oh, look, it's getting close, isn't it? But then, it's we've got all this other stuff in the way first. There's still Resistance to get through and Mandalorian and it's just going to be an embarrassment of riches for a few months of stuff, before we have this little drought again. But look, I'm really excited for it, and it's great. I always get really sort of curious about how different people go about it. When the new movies come, some people go by themselves, some people go with their families, some people go with their friends. I kind of like that because we've had so many of these movies now. Everyone's got a little groove, a little routine that they like to do. It sounds like you've got a good little thing going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about that now. Since Force Awakens, we've always been inundated with a bunch of different stuff. So maybe we'll see what we're getting this coming weekend, what we get told about.
Yeah, well, that's the big news, isn't it? This D23 thing. What are we going to see? I mean, do you watch the trailers and things? I know you said you don't speculate. You still get excited. Oh, you did say you watch trailers. Yep. So you still get excited about trailers and things. I mean, I don't think there'll be a trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. I think there'll be a trailer for Mandalorian, and I think we'll get a behind the scenes for Rise of Skywalker. So we'll see a little bit more, but I think they'll do the same thing they did with Last Jedi, and they'll do a trailer with the football a little bit later, I reckon.
We'll see what that is.
I'm
not even gonna go guessing about that because I don't even. I always kind of roll with this, Josh. When it's time for them to tell us a thing, they'll tell us a thing. Because ain't it hell being on the outside that big, long, tall Lucasfilm wall?
Yeah, well, I mean, I went to Lucasfilm when I was in San Francisco and got to go into the, out the front of the Yoda fountain and inside the foyer. And
I remember I sent you a voicemail.
Yeah, you did. Well, I listened to that. We put that at the start of that episode. It was a nice little sweet way to end those episodes. But you go, even when you're in the Lucasfilm building, there's a great big wall that you can't get through.
Maybe there's a wall I speak of.
Yeah, that's right. Until you're I think you have to be invited, basically. You can't just walk in.
Matter of fact, I'll tell you just how your show found its way in my playlist. It's because Celebration, you's doing like Eric Struthers and Bad Motivator Boys was doing, and Hawes was doing. Yeah, there's a few other different shows. Forcecast, everybody was making these little mini episodes that put out like the next day for Celebration Day started up for each of the days. The ones that you went and put out is what got your show in my playlist. And my humble thanks for that.
Oh, no problem. Well, it was, I'd sort of planned to do it.
It's because all us folks that was homebound and couldn't go and had to be there with Yins through the live stream, that was additions to before and after that live stream that I felt like I was there. And that and doing stuff in Twitterverse. I mean, with all Ian's and Claire Stribling, Emily Lind, everybody was posting up stuff, and I'm doing all this replying back, and I'm just like, I'm that Force Ghost right there behind you. I'm there with you through Ian's.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'd been in your shoes a couple of times on things because obviously in Australia we're so far away, and
Hmm.
I'd always followed Steele's ones and a couple of other things that he'd done for San Diego and things, and I thought, oh well, I'll do it as well, and it was just kind of lucky that I managed to sort of have enough time to record, and then basically we would do the whole day, and I'd have some little clips, and then I would jump on the laptop before bed at sometimes sort of 2 or 3 in the morning, and then quickly stitch them together and post it straight away and go to sleep, and then
Yep.
wake up and all these people had downloaded it, and I'm going, oh, that's brilliant. So I think it was the fact that I kind of did it that night, and it was up. It was very much the day. I think there was a few other people who did stuff, but it ended up being a few days after because it's you got a lot on your plate, so sometimes it's hard to do this. So we were lucky enough that we had time at the very end of the night, and it worked well that I had Catherine and Andy and a couple of people to talk to just to wrap up the day and say, oh, okay, tomorrow we've got this panel, and so yeah, I mean, I've got tickets for Anaheim. I'd like to try and do it again. Any chance we're going to see you at Anaheim?
Well, I always say I'm always open book and ain't gonna hold anything back on anything about me. So I'm like ask me anything all the time. I'm hoping one day, because the one thing I'll just put straight up front that holds me back from going, because there's a bunch of our friends I'd love to meet, and a bunch are bugging me. You're like, when you gonna come? Because we want to meet you. Is I'm paying child support on my girls, and till my youngest in 4 more years is 18. Half my paycheck goes to supporting them. So and I know I can go and save, but that would probably take me another couple of years yet.
Yep, yep.
One day,
you
one day I'll get around to, and no matter wherever they're having it, I aim to have my butt at one and make my way around all our Star Wars podcast friends.
Well, the good thing is, Star Wars isn't going anywhere, so it's not. If you miss one, it's not. It's not going to be the end of the world. This looks like there's always going to be another one. We were very surprised that they did it again next year, but it was a pleasure to go, and really glad I can go again. But yeah, look, if they ever do one and you manage to come along, it'll be great to have. You come out and walk the floor with us and get a few microphones stuck in your face, I'm sure.
Oh, I'd be game for that. I'd be game for that for sure.
Well, that's the best thing about at Celebration. You're sort of running a podcast, and especially one where you have different guests on all the time. It can be hard to find people. Sometimes you get lucky, you get a lot of people who are keen, and sometimes it's a bit more difficult. But you're at Star Wars Celebration. There's no shortage of people who want to talk about Star Wars. It's pretty easy to find people, which is good.
No, that's our family. That's our family right there. Well, that's not all of them. Even if it's like what was Orlando was close to 70,000 people was the biggest one I recall here, and even Chicago weren't that big. And the place they held at in Chicago was bigger than the one in Orlando. I don't get that, but
yeah, it felt big, but as soon as the first day, the preview day felt the biggest because there was no panel, so everybody was on the floor.
Yep.
Then it felt really busy because it was sort of there was nothing else to do but walk the floor. As soon as the panels opened, everybody kind of spread out. It was quite easy to sort of cruise around, but I ended up just walking the floor, handing out pins or badges and stickers and looking at toys, basically just looking around at toys all the time. Try not to buy too many things.
Stuff everywhere.
Oh, it's unbelievable the amount of stuff, because Australia is so bad for toys and for collectibles. It's it was like the chocolate factory. It's just everything you could think of was there. You had to just be sensible about what you spend your cash on. We should jump back onto D23.
Sure.
What do you think about all this Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff? Now, obviously, we had Ewan McGregor on the show.
I heard.
Which a few
yesterday
people,
was in my playlist. Yep.
Some people thought was very funny. Some people thought was not very funny. But I thought it was funny. I love it. I love to do this to amuse myself. Rural. So I thought it was funny. The irony being that one day somebody, a big Star Wars celebrity, will come on this podcast and nobody will believe that it's really them. So one day John Boyega will offer to come on the podcast and then nobody will listen because they'll think, oh, it's just him doing a stupid voice again. So,
my thoughts on Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Do you think this is it? Do you think this is the? It seems like it's everything but 100% him on a podium saying it's happening, isn't it?
Oh, let's see. When did this get born? 2016, I feel like, is when first talk of this really started running around. And Resistance broadcast was just talking about that yesterday. Yeah, Johnny Hoey said the same thing. It's been running around for like 4 years.
Forever.
And it's happening, and it's getting talked about, and then it gets put down, and then, well, it's not happening again. And then 6 months later, it's picked up, and it's getting all run around again. And I appreciate everything. I love everything that making Star Wars and Jason Ward goes and does, and I'll follow him. I read everything. Give me spoilers all day long because they don't go and get in my way. I'll read everything he goes and put out. And even he was saying, and I'll go with that, but at the end of the day, when Lucasfilm tells us it's happening, then I'm in. Variety and anybody else that's going to go and say, even though they got their reliable sources, I'll give them that, they ain't Lucasfilm. They can go and say, exactly. And when Lucasfilm says it's a thing, then I'm in.
Well, even, things that Lucasfilm have confirmed don't happen sometimes, when they hire a director or something, until you actually sit there, I'm sitting there on my couch or in the cinema and I put the lights go down and the Lucasfilm logo comes up.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to see it to believe it, don't you really? But, look, I think I spoke about this a little while ago when we talked, because we've been speculating about this for years, like you said. I always felt that the long form TV show would be better suited. I'd rather have a 6 or 7 slow burn Obi-Wan story than a 2-hour flashy movie in this case. But I don't know. I mean, your big thing on Twitter, apart from promoting podcasts, is Solo 2. You seem to be the champion of Solo 2. You look like that. You would basically say stop all other Star Wars stuff and give me that Solo 2.
And I'll tell you why, because I learned a lesson there. Was when we was told about that, I was among them lot that was going about why. Mm-hmm. Why you want to tell us this? Why do we need? Why a Solo movie? I'm not understanding. Because I wasn't really, and I learned my lesson when I went and saw it. I thought, you don't ever talk like that again. And I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about an Obi-Wan story and how that'd go and work. Well, me kind of saying that might be the start of me putting one foot of getting in my own way, because I learned my lesson from Solo. Don't do that. But what they got, I'm not sure, because we kind of had that as a legend story. So how else would that go and work? And if they want to tell it, I'll surely be along to see it.
Yep.
If and after first we find out that it's real.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's worry about being real first. So in regards to Solo 2, is that just you just love the movie, or do you feel that the story's not done, or you just want to see those characters again, or just a bit of everything? Is it just a movie that you really liked and just worried you might not get to see more?
Oh, you mean in regards to running that hashtag Make Solo 2 happen around?
Yeah. I'm just
okay.
You seem to be the number one champion. I'm just sort of curious about is it just I just really want to see more of this, or you feel like it didn't get the love it deserves, and if someone's out there championing it.
Lacey took note of that. I sent them in Resistance broadcasts. They're like, ask us a question, and since I don't do speculating, I'm not going to go and ask him that. So I went and asked him something else, and she said, she told John and James the same thing. She's like, you know what? He's a very adamant make Solo 2 happen. And I was just like, firstly, the reason is why, because I would love to be told. I want us all to be told another story that's 10 years for New Hope. So what else is all going on with him? He's got to have a bunch of other adventures. And secondly, I felt badly because that story didn't get the attention it deserved to get, like every other Star Wars story got. And folks were so worried about, while it was happening, that it was going on with Phil and Chris while they was making it, and all of a sudden they weren't, and all this, everything was all in turmoil. And I'm thinking, folks, why are we why yin's all concerned with all this? We ain't got nothing to do with it. Just wait for it to get put together, because it's Lucasfilm. They're going to put the same love and care into whatever next story they're telling, same as they done as everyone come for it. They're not going to do this wrong, because that's not what Lucasfilm does. They ain't never did and ain't never gonna. Can you see that?
Yeah, even if they have to break some eggs to get it done, you know?
Well, that happens. And some folks are looking at like maybe them breaking eggs, or, oh geez, they're doing reshoots. That's how films are made. Every film, not just Star Wars stories, all of them, they're made the same way. And again, we're on the outside of that wall. We should be going carrying on about other fun stuff, not worrying about who let what director go or who got replaced as a writer. That ain't none of our concern, in my opinion, which is something a lot of folks don't go and say a lot, because that would end up, or not even let a lot of arguments start, if folks would just say, to me, or in my opinion, instead of trying to state your opinion and make somebody else kind of, shove it down their throat like it's a fact. It's just an opinion. It ain't right, ain't nor wrong. It's just your opinion. Yeah. We'd all be a lot more friendly with each other if folks would go and do that.
Would you like to see Solo 2? I mean, if they came back and said, oh, actually, we're going to do Disney Plus series, would that satisfy you as a series? I mean, or does Han need to be on the big screen?
I take every Star Wars story the same way Jason Ward does. Give it to me however you want to tell me. I'll go to the theater, see it. I'll watch it on television. I'll watch it on this here iPod. I'll watch it on the TV out the window on the neighbor's TV over there. However, whatever way they want to tell me a story.
Like looking out the window and see you peering through, watching Solo 2. Over the back of the thing. Yeah. Oh, look, I'd like to see Solo 2. I really dug it. I thought it was good fun, and it was, all the things that people were so worried about before it came out, whether Alden Ehrenreich could be Han Solo, that sort of fell by the wayside. Sort of came out. No one even talks about that now. It's quite a feat that people are quite happy to accept him as young Han Solo, especially when you're following on from someone like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that's because Lucasfilm made that work. That's why it works the way it does. They weren't going to do it wrong. And I believed in him since we was told that he was going to be being that character to us. And everybody else was so worried about having a Harrison Ford. Well, he couldn't do it. He was, what was he, 68, 69 at the time? 70. He was around 70.
Yeah, I think he's in his 70s.
That's not going to work. He's got to be in his mid-20s, so clearly and plainly it's got to be somebody else. And at some point in another story, if somebody wants to go and use Luke, 70-year-old Mark Hamill ain't going to cut it. It's got to be somebody else, and they're going to craft it in a way to make you believe that whoever that fella is playing him, that's him.
That's Luke Skywalker. Is Luke Skywalker your, as the young 10-year-old boy on the farm who saw Star Wars, was he the guy you identified with the most? You're just looking at another boy, out in the farm looking for adventure. Is he the character he's closest to your heart?
Oddly enough, no.
Oh,
what took? Well, yeah, even my own self, yeah. No, what took my attention was actually, it took a little bit for it to get to be Darth Vader, but as odd as that is, it's what ended up getting me interested in for the time that I spent in the 501st Legion. No, it was stormtroopers. I was just fascinated as all get out with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a horse of a different color for sure.
So you must have been pretty happy when Darth Vader turned up in Rogue One, then.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, and was not expecting Governor Tarkin, as we seen his reflection in that
Yeah.
that viewport, and I weren't expecting him to turn around. And when he turned around, I was
I
literally
remember.
a puddle in my seat. So my
I
girls are
remember when
looking
we
at me
saw it.
sinking down in the seat. My girls are looking at me sinking down in the seat, and they're like, "Dad, what's wrong?" And I'm like,
Like,
"That feller's been dead for 25 years."
yeah, the guy's been dead to 25. And there he is, acting
Yeah,
in
and
front of
he's
me.
right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was the same when we saw it. We saw it in the big room on the Steel Wars show, big premiere night at midnight down here in Melbourne. And yeah, when he turned around, everyone went, because we kind of thought, oh, they'll do a little. Yeah, they said they'll do the reflection, and that's about it. But yeah, that was something else, really. That
and
was
when
something
Leia
else. And
turned
then,
around and said "Hope," I was a ball and mess.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really hoping that that Carrie Fisher's well represented in Rise of Skywalker. I hope that sort of done tastefully and respectfully. But like you said, it's Lucasfilm. They're not going to
Exactly.
mess around with someone like Leia. They wouldn't even attempt it if they didn't think they could do it right.
Yep. In JJ we trust.
Yeah.
Part
yeah,
2.
JJ's part 2. He has to type his own loose ends this time, doesn't he?
And he will. He's got all the help he needs. The force of others is surely with him.
And then we're on to Ryan Johnson. It looks like he was in the news the other day. And the funny thing about Ryan Johnson is that it, given that some people don't like what he did, that's fine. They don't have to. But people keep speculating that he doesn't have a job. But he just goes, yeah. Every now and then he'll just be like, yeah, I've always been doing it. Nothing's ever changed. I'm just getting on with it. And that for some reason, anytime he says that he's still working on it, it's news, even though nothing's changed. It's just that fever news cycle, isn't it? The Twitterverse, as you say.
Yeah, it's already running around out there just now this afternoon. There's a small lot of that fandom menace posting up saying that it's officially canceled again. No, it ain't. And Lucasfilm is reorganizing, and Ryan's out, and it's got the axe. You're going to see that later on today in that Twitterverse, and just let him be.
I just saw that Spider-Man is going back to Sony and not staying with Disney or something. That's what the only bit of Twitter I saw today. But I'm sure they'll work those things out. I don't know. We're always in Australia. We're always, because it's nighttime, we miss a lot of the Twitter stuff. And usually by the time you get up in the morning and check your phone on the train, like I do, all this news is already blown over by then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did see. I don't really follow Marvel much at all. I can sit and watch Iron Man and the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and that's probably about as far as I go. And funny that you mentioned that yeah, it's just being brought up now about Sony doing something with Spider-Verse. Before this call started, I was just seeing Ben Hart from Star Wars Underworld like, Disney, you got to go and buy Sony now.
Oh dear. Yeah, the social stuff it works very well, when you do it right, and I tend to just step away or not get engaged with sort of other things if people get at each other. It doesn't really interest me, but I much prefer the people like yourself are out there, talking about the things that they like and spreading the good vibes.
I learned over this past year that I've been on there is how it works. It's all about who you follow.
Oh, for sure.
And Twitterverse don't work the same way Facebook does, because I got a thing on Facebook, but I don't go use it at all, because I kind of learned that it actually, when you follow somebody else over there, that brings all of that followers into your feed, and a lot of them, folks don't know each other, and that's how things go and get sideways. That don't happen in Twitterverse. And my timeline is always the best place. So anybody ever is finding problems with that loud few, come on in my timeline. There's never a bad thing in there.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, my personal one, I don't run any of that. It's all just friends and things I'm interested in. The podcast one is a little bit more general because we follow a lot of different Star Wars people, but I'm not really, it's sort of a little bit of engagement, a little bit of, sharing and promoting and things like that. And then, and then I have one for the Peppa Pig podcast, and the Peppa Pig people are completely different as well than Star Wars.
I only got one. I only got one. There's only one me, so there's only one account I got in Twitter. Rural Farmboy.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's all you need. How long have you had that name for? Is that an online name that you've had since the message board days?
Yep. Yeah, I put some thought to that. I'm like, how I want to do this, because I don't know. Do I want to use my name, or folks are gonna get to know who I am anyhow? So I thought, no.
Yep.
I always been a rural boy, and yep, I even in a little town of 5,000 I live in. It's a rural little western Pennsylvania town. So I thought, well, always been more like a farm boy. Never been a city boy. Big city, not for me. Went and took my girls walk around Pittsburgh a bit, but always happy to come back out to where things is sparse.
Oh, well, the town I grew up in was about 5,000 as well. So, yeah, I was in the town. I wasn't on the farm. But, yeah, spent a lot of time on farms growing up. I had a lot of relatives with farms, dairy farms and things where we are. So, even worlds away, even on different countries, it's crazy how much you can have in common with people, especially when you're both into Star Wars.
Absolutely. I find a lot of that through all the years of listening to all these different shows. Why weren't these folks neighbors to me before, that we could be friends then?
Yeah. Oh, look, it's I've had all my friends here, my oldest friends and stuff. Some of them are into Star Wars a little bit, or happily go see a movie and things. But it's strange when you gravitate to people who are really into the same thing that you're into and love to talk about it and stuff. And then when you all get together in a place like Celebration, it's crazy how you can sort of connect with people really quickly, because you've got this shared thing that you're also passionate about and just love, enjoying and having fun with.
Yep. That's how it kind of feels. It feels like that for me now, and I can only say that because I ain't been Celebration. But it's like that every day in Twitterverse for me. Is just like, this right here is as close as I'm getting to all these folks, because everything we go and do and say is like in real time. And,
yeah.
And me getting to see everybody else that I listen to interacting to and talking to each other. Like just for this call, I'm out there looking and watching Steele was going on about something or other, and Ryan from the Forcecast hit him back. And I'm thinking, those are two folks I'd have never thought see talking to each other, and there they are. And then I thought, think about it a bit more, and I'm like, this is what I want. This is all my friends all together.
Look, I really hope one day, you get to come into a room with everybody. We had the first night of Celebration. I think it's on one of the blog pods. We all met up at a bar, and it was like the internet had come to life, and we had a really great time talking to people. And then you just interact with people over the next few days and things. But look, the promotion stuff that you do is fantastic, and I think you make a lot of podcasters very happy that you're out there setting out the good vibes and promoting and things. But does it, with your playlist, are there drop-offs? Do you sort of give a new thing a few goes, and then if it's not grabbing you drop off, or do you
I've done
keep
that.
finding more and more space?
I've done that before. I've had some shows. There's one still running out there now that's still new, and one of the two folks doing it, I'm not going to call them out. I'll just let them be.
No, you don't have to call anybody.
Because everybody takes it in such a deep and wide, different kind of. There really, really is something for everybody, and not everything's for everybody.
No.
But for my playlist, I've put some out and try to make room and add them in, and when I put them up, that's exactly what I'm listening to, very likely in that order. And I don't get to, because through my workday, I'm a warehouse worker. So if I'm not spending time on a forklift, I've always got one earbud in my left ear and somebody's talking to me. Some days I feel like, if you're familiar with Star Trek, some days I feel like a Borg, because I got all these voices just going through my head all the time.
Oh, look, it's exactly the same with me. I've got headphones on all day at work, and I do design work for a living, so I don't need to type anything. So it's okay if you've got people talking in my ear, because it doesn't really affect what my work is. So
same for me.
Can you with a forklift? Can you pick a coin up off the ground with a forklift? Isn't that the sort of test that you're a forklift master? If you can lift a coin off the ground with a forklift?
Put a dime down and then tilt the forks forward and back it up. I've done that. I've been driving for
Oh, yeah.
25 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my parents have a farm machinery business selling tractors and things, and my brother's taking over the family business, and that's one of the things he had to learn. He had to learn how to drive the forklift, and that was one of the things that they were saying, like, oh, you got to learn how to take the coin off the ground.
Yep.
Then you've mastered it.
I've done some crazy stuff with a forklift, but that's a different discussion for a different time.
Forklift cast.
No, as far as my playlist goes, yeah, when I get up in the morning, it's all real time. I don't get to put everybody up that happens to be in my ears, and I usually try to mix it up because I want everybody to have. I don't even see me as a promoter. That's some fella in a suit and tie out there in the real world. No, I put everybody up, and it just this past 3 weeks, I found it kind of interesting. I'm like, you know what? How many shows do I listen to a day or for a week? And what put me to that was it Micah? I think it was Micah in the Twitterverse or Roku Depot. One of them hit me with a follow, and I follow him back. And it was Roku Depot. And I asked him, I said, because he puts up different lists that he rates and reviews. And I asked him, I'm like, how many shows do you listen to through a week? And it took him a couple of days, and he come back and he said, well, for this week, I listened to 38. So I thought, you know what? I get to work every morning. I'm going to grab a Post-it note and a pencil. I'm going to start writing them down in order, what I listen to. And then tag it on the bottom with what day of the week that was, and come home and then let them add up. So I started on a Monday, and I listen even at home. I sit right here with this radio right beside me and plug that old iPod in, and my girls will sit and listen. They love the Force Toast girls.
Yeah, they're great. They're actually a bit of sizzle. They'll be on the show soon, next few weeks.
Actually, I'll go and give them.
Guest.
I'll go and give them a cheers right here because I'm sipping some corn whiskey right now.
Yeah, we're planning. We're trying to get the dates to line up for them to come and guest on the show here. So hopefully they'll be on in the next couple of weeks, which will be good.
So if I get 8 or 10 shows in, maybe 12 a day, I added it up the past couple of weeks and set my socks on fire. I listen to nearly 70 shows a week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's
wow.
all the ins.
Oh man, well, look, it's an honor to be involved. I'm so glad that we're on there and that you've been pumping up. You sent voicemails, and getting to have on a guest was really great. I'm really glad that you had the time to come on and do it.
I'm behind on my voicemails because I keep drawing a blank. What do I want to send folks? Because I want to send them something.
Well, we don't actually normally do, like, I don't do Q&A on my ones or anything, and it just worked out perfectly that you sent a little voicemail just saying how much you were enjoying the Blood Pods, and when we did the wrap-up one at Lucasfilm, it was just the perfect little bit of audio just to put on there. I was so happy when I got it, because normally I don't sort of ask for voicemails. I don't really do it just because I have guests every time, so I talk to them rather than get questions in. So.
I'll say this here for everybody else, especially other podcasters listening. It ain't about me. It's about we. If Yuns ain't doing, I got nothing to listen to. It starts with Yuns. Always started with everybody that's been podcasting for years to just newer ones starting now. If you're not doing a show, all us other folks can't give a listen or come up with a thought that, hey, who's Josh? Josh got an open seat next week. I'll come talk stars with you. It always starts with folks doing. You're doing. Thank you for that. You give me something to listen to. And then it brings us all that much closer together.
Oh, look at that. That's my pleasure. What a way for us to wrap up, I think, here. Everybody who follows or listens to this podcast probably knows who you are, but let's just drop your social media stuff again, just in case for some crazy reason people aren't following you. Where can they find you on the Twitterverse?
I'm a Rural Farmboy, and I believe that little tag underneath is Rural Farmboy at lowercase a lowercase Rural Farmboy. And I'll go ask us too of other shows that always ask for send us your questions. Remember, this is a two-way street. Works both ways. Ask questions to your listeners, and I'll guarantee you conversations will go a lot longer.
Maybe I need to start doing some Q&A on this thing then.
There's so many shows that say, send us your questions. How about ask us some too? And a lot of folks will be doing, my playlist be getting a lot shorter because there'll be some 2.5 hour long shows because there's so much talk going back and forth.
That's very true. Well, you can find all our stuff at StarWarsSpelledOut.com. We're on all the Twitterverse. We've got all our T-shirts and everything else on TeePublic and all that kind of normal things. And yeah, look, thanks so much for coming on, Anthony Rural. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad you took the time. We'll have you on again soon. Maybe we'll get your thoughts post Rise of Skywalker and tell me what you think.
Say when, Josh. You know where to find me.
Oh, excellent. All right. Thanks a lot, mate.
Yes, sir. May the force be with you, brother.
You too. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.